there's been a little bit of a debate amongst some people, not a lot, but whether or not the top 8 seeds for Division One men's and women's tennis should host at the highest seed. My thing is, you gotta reward those teams for being a top 8 seed to get the chance to host up to 3 rounds in the NCAA tournament. Yes, I know some crowds were not as good as others, but I mean, there's a reason why they should do it. First of all, it's up to the coach just to bring out the fans and find a way to get them involved, to get them there. I know Baylor got like a DJ there, a pre-game tent, a tailgate, and they had free sandwiches, free drink, water bottles, a raffle for free. Yes, yet there was snow cones too, but the thing is, you have to pay for that. But still, there's there's ways to get people to come, and it's for them to invest to get the fans to come and promote the sport and get those people to come on a consistent basis. I know for the men this year, they had pizza almost every match except this one at home, just to get them to come. Besides free shirts and all that, but you know what I'm saying. It's up to them to get the people to come, and I get change is hard because until 2019, everything was Sweet 16. You don't get to host anymore, regardless of your seed. But the thing is, you're hardly giving it a chance. This is only the second time that they have allowed the top 8 seeds to host up to 3 rounds if you get past the first 2. Because, 2020 was a shutdown. And last year they didn't even have it because the pandemic was still kind of going on, as we all know. That's why they did Sweet 16 and Elite 8, Sweet 16 up to the championship. And does it really matter if there is a home court advantage at a neutral site, at a certain school for the top 8 seeds? Because if you do neutral site, some schools on neutral sites are closer than others in terms of distance. Like, for example, last year, Florida men's tennis was essentially like 2.5 hours or less, or 3 hours or less, depending on traffic, of course, or 2 hours even, from Orlando, Florida. And they won a national title. But I'm just saying that there's always going to be a home court advantage with some team, regardless of Sweet 16 onward. Or in the case of UCF women, that's the team that hosted last year, both men and women. They lost to Duke 4-3 at home in the Sweet 16 last year. So, to those people that say that they shouldn't be able to host. I get change is hard, but you're not giving it a chance. This is only the second time. You gotta give it at least 3 more NCAA tournaments worth of this, or even up to 7. Let the NCAA tournament decide. If you're gonna complain about that, you need to complain about the softball and the baseball for the regionals and super regionals. If you're the highest seed possible, you could complain about that for women's soccer for the NCAA tournament up to the Final Four, and even at Final Four, even at those like neutral sites, like supposedly I know softball is at Oklahoma City. Oklahoma, is a rising power and one of the best teams in the country. They're going to get to the College World Series this year, I believe. They're going to have essentially a home crowd advantage, and same possibly goes for Oklahoma State. It doesn't really matter on home court advantage because, look, softball and baseball have had upsets at regionals. Super regionals and regionals in general. So really, does it really matter if it's a neutral site for Sweet 16 onward? No, it doesn't really matter. I know the first time in 2019, USC men were hosting North Carolina. North Carolina beat them. So, that's just saying one instance. I know there's not been a, and I think this year is an exception because clearly the top 8 teams for men and women have separated themselves from the 9 through 16. Clearly, if you have followed all along, the top 8 seeds from both men and women, and even basketball, some regionals, I mean, like first, second rounds, the women host first and second rounds, but the men don't. But the thing is, they scheduled the Baylor men this year. I know that for a fact. At TCU, on the campus of TCU, and they still lost in the round of 32 in overtime. So really, does it really matter have home court advantage or not? And some like Sweet 16s and Elite 8s are still close for the underdog. Like for example, UConn women's basketball was a 2 seed this year, and they were closer to home court advantage than NC State. That's just saying one example right there. So, for all those people that want to complain about that, and like home court advantage for the men's and women's tennis, you gotta complain about that across the board. That's just being ridiculous, in my opinion. And yes, I'm talking to all those people out there who are watching, and they just are in disbelief about this. Round of 16 should not be at the host sites. You need to reward teams that are top 8 seeds for a reason to host. They deserve. It's a lot of hard work just to be a top 8 seed. And even in men's basketball, Baylor men were an underdog against Duke in 2010 in the Elite 8. They had home court advantage. But no, they lost. So, see? It doesn't always matter. It doesn't always factor. Home court advantage does not always mean that team's going to win anyway. So, that's just my case in point. And I know in 2014, Notre Dame actually hosted the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, actually. And they got to play Baylor in 2014. And they won that. And I think at the time it was just not fair for them to be at home. But I know it was probably meant to be a neutral site, but I don't know why the NCAA did that at the time. But at least since that point in time, they have not had it at a campus. They just had it in more neutral court than a home court. But still, those people are acting ridiculous over this top 8 seeds should not host first, second round. I mean, not just first and second rounds, but just for a Sweet 16 match. And I get some crowds were not great, like I said. But Baylor had over 1,600 people on Friday. Yes, 1,600. That's a record at the Her Tennis Center. This is why we need the top 8 seeds to be rewarded. And I know Oklahoma had a great crowd. Duke had a great crowd. Virginia even had a great crowd. And I get the times are not convenient sometimes. And it kind of falls on that as well. But if you have a primetime opportunity, you got to it's up to the coaches to get those fans to come. Anyways, I'm sorry for this rant, but I had to make it, especially when people are complaining about this issue. All about this, the round of 16 should be a neutral site from here on out. No, you're not giving it much of a chance. We need more data. Like I said, fans will come around. Seriously. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get me up to 400 subscribers or more by the end of this year.